everybody. My name is Valerie of Sistah-Talk with Valerie, and today we are live, Sistah-Talk at home. And the topic of our conversation today is, where is the love? And it is based, as is everything will be, on my book, The Book Club, available on Amazon.com. Get it today so you can keep up, because book 2 is finished. But God told me to go back to book 1 so we can begin to have conversations, so you can get to know the ladies in this book, so you can fall in love with the ladies in this book, so you can be ready for book 2. So the purpose of this conversation came about because there's a couple of women in the book who are looking for love. One of them is Denise, who has not dated since her fiance was tragically killed in a drive-by 25 years before, because her son is 25. And also Sophia, who has some body image issues, and so, you know, she's going through this divorce. She goes through the divorce. She goes on this big, beautiful website to find love, and she's panicking because she's sitting in the parking lot outside the restaurant where she's supposed to meet the dude, and she's like, oh my God, suppose he don't like me, suppose my hair ain't right, suppose this and that. And so I thought about how we today, women, are looking for love. And so I invited 3 wonderful ladies with me, guests, 2 of my daughters, and this is my newly adopted daughter, because you are all single women looking for love. And the topic of the conversation is, where is the love? Tell me, I want to know, how is it that 3 beautiful, intelligent women could be having a hard time finding love? What's the problem, Doreen?
I really don't know what the problem is. You know, I've asked myself that many times, but I really don't think there's a problem. I just think that we live in a different world where the standards are kind of different. And I know, I think most of us are like 80s babies, right? And so we have standards from when we were growing up about what marriage looks like, what love looks like, and et cetera, and how we should live our lives. But I think like nowadays we live in a different society where the standards are not the same when we were growing up. So I think people view relationships differently, you know, without the same values and standards.
That's a good point.
And they see people differently too.
Yeah.
You know, they have different perspectives.
I thought, and I want you to answer this, Kia and Celia. First of all, can I ask you how old you are?
Me?
Is it okay? We don't have to. Can I ask you how
I'm
old?
in my 30s.
Okay, you're in your 30s. Mid, late?
I'm 37.
Okay. I'm 55. Hello. Can I ask you your age?
I'm 38, just turned 38 December 13th.
And so your age?
33.
All right. So we have women who are 80s, about babies. So is that your experience?
You know, I had a conversation with a male friend the other day about something similar, and he was saying, you know, what you're looking for, it is too different nowadays to find that. And I was like, well, you know, I don't really need society to be right for me. I need one person to be right for me. So I know that things are very different, though. I was just thinking about how we have the whole swipe mentality. Speaking of online dating, like, I saw this show on YouTube that was pretty interesting, where they actually had the physical people in front of a person and they were swiping left and right, but they had to do it face to face of the person in front of them, and how different that experience is than being on a phone and being like,
you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
But I think that we are kind of like disconnected, and we could be very dismissive of one another because of that, and very picky and very critical of flaws because of that capability. So I don't know, but it does seem to be like there are a pocket or a group of men who claim to be looking for good women, and then there are a pocket of women who are looking for good men, and so I don't know why there's a disconnect between finding one another.
Okay. Same experience, Celia, you have?
Well, my personal opinion is more so, I feel like the issue that I see.
Little boy, don't go this way.
Go that way.
Put this over there. And we're live, y'all.
We're
This
live,
is home, so this is what happens with it. And go back out that way. Go ahead.
But with my personal experience with it, I feel like it stems from me. I don't feel like it's too much of I mean, I think society definitely has an impact and an effect on these relationships that we are looking for. But I think it more so stems down to you and what you will accept and what you won't accept and what exactly your standards are if you have any. And I think that's what comes as an issue, just speaking about women in general, is because we base everything that we do off of emotion. Most of the time, not all of it. But it's most of the time based off of emotion, and it's most of the time based off of a feeling. And then another thing I feel like we do is we take the friend piece out of the scenario. And it's just like, I just want to be in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Versus, let me see what this person is about. Let me see if we even mesh well together. And I think that's a big disconnect, that we have, because we, not all the time, sometimes we get these little spurts where we'll be like, okay, I'm just going to be this person's friend. But 9 times out of 10 in the back of our head, we're planning our wedding. And we're moving too fast because we don't know who or what we're dealing with.
Yeah. Now, one of the things we were talking about before we got on air is the show. What's the name of the show, Kia?
Ready to Love?
Not Ready to
Love
Love.
Is.
Love Is. Okay, so we all fell in love with Love Is because it was the story of black love, and these two producers and writers. It was loosely based on their life, and then we found out that her husband had been cheating the whole time in their relationship. And one of the allegedly. And one of the things I said to the ladies was that we have to establish our deal breakers up front, right? Because something in her probably knew he was cheating. I've been cheated on, and I have cheated. And there is something in you that knows. You can say, oh my God, I need to see them butt naked in front of me dumping. No, you don't. No, you don't. You know when it's happening, but it's our choice. So, but we also have to be careful about what we will accept and what we won't accept. Because infidelity is not always a reason to end a relationship. Because that, and that's just my point of view. It's not everybody's. But till death do you part means it's supposed to mean that. What is your thought on that?
I feel like that's when marriage is in place. But what about when it's not? You know what I mean? It's and that's how I feel like, especially my generation looks at things. It's not till death do us part. There's no ring on your finger. It's not till death do us part. We're not married. So legally, I'm not bound to you. I'm still technically single. And I feel like a lot of people have that mindset, whether it's consciously or not. And I feel like, looking at that perspective, that's what goes back to what I was talking about initially, where we don't analyze the situation. It's like we know what we want, and that's what we're going for. But the initial is to take that time to build that friendship. At that point, you will know over time whether this is going to be your husband or whether this is going to be your wife. But we want a microwave situation so many times in life that we end up in the opposite of what we wanted. And then we complain about it, and then we don't take accountability for the part that we played in all of that.
That, when you were talking and you mentioned something, I hear a lot, and I don't know if you all agree, that black people don't date. Like, we don't.
What?
Meaning,
I can't see my comments over there. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see them on my screen. But I do want to really invite our audience in. I do see my niece Tricity, lovely Tris, who says very true, almost like an auction block. Everything seems to be like it's so rushed. Putting up and work never ends in a relationship. Absolutely, relationships is WORK. I'm trying to tell you, but bad.
But to your point that people need to set standards, and they need to, and you also said we need to find out what our deal breakers are. I think that when we first get into relationships, or not even before we get into relationships, building friendships with people, dating people, I don't see a lot of people doing that. Like, just being very casual and very careful and taking their time and being like, I'm not going to say this is my future husband. This is just my friend. This is just someone I'm getting to know. Like, I don't see a lot of women doing that consciously. Because I feel like they think, I just want him to choose me, and I want this guy, and he's handsome, and he has this going for him, Okay, let's start getting serious. But instead of being like, okay, well, yeah, you are alright, but let me get to know you a little better. And I remember watching the Ready to Love show, and the woman made a really good point. She said, I need to see how he acts when he's mad. I need to see how he acts when he's frustrated or when he's happy. Like, just how people react to certain things in life. And it's like, if you're not taking the time to create friendships and create a foundation with someone, and it might lead into a relationship or it might be a lifelong friend, but if you're not taking that time and thinking about what do I want out of this person, and just dating, like just having fun and taking it very casually.
So I went on an online date, and of course I'm 55, so I was looking for folks 48, I think I put 48 to like, I think 60.
Hold on, what was this?
Don't worry. But anyways, my thought is, because they're older, of course, they're more mature, and of course, it's going to be a different vibe. Into the know, because they was all, first of all, everybody I just meet you online, and you want to know what my bedroom looks like. My thing is, really? Like, I don't need to go on a website to have sex. I can walk out my door. Like, I couldn't understand, no, really. But my thing was, I didn't get why I guess I missed, and I'm not trying to bash you guys, but I thought that people would be more mature at that age on a dating site, that they would have certain values. So when you guys talk about your age, imagine how I feel at 55. You're trying to date and what's out there. But one of the things that I think is important for us to really talk about is something that Talia said, and this is like what we expect, right? Because I know a lot of women have the checklist. And in terms of sex, like, if you are going to have sex with everybody that you're trying, first of all, you don't get your time back, so let's put that in there. Yeah, you should create a relationship and everything, but you don't get your time back. So if you waste a year with dude, or whoever your partner is, if it's a female, if you waste a year in a relationship, that's a year that you don't get back. So should we go right to the sex, or should we talk about something else first? Because that's an issue in some relationships. Because that's the reason why some women don't wait. Because I ain't had no sex. You could be Miss Susie in the first row of the church pew that ain't been with nobody in a year, and then Mr. Sam comes up and, oh Lord, it's been 10 years.
We talked about that last night, about how, you really have to guard your heart, and you have to really be realistic about your weaknesses and as far as temptation, because so for me, I have children, but I'm deciding to be celibate, and I've been celibate for almost 2 years. And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, that's hard, and I can't do that, or how could you do that? For me, I have been able to filter out what's not for me very quickly, because I can tell by a person's conversation, I can tell by their reaction, if they're going to be able to handle what I have set as a standard for myself. And so it makes it easier. It's not easy to be celibate. Everybody gets lonely. Everybody has needs and has desires, but I have come to a place in my life where I'm like, I'm not going to sacrifice what this might mean for myself or my children or my purpose just to have pleasure. It's more, for me, it's more important at this point to please God and to know that He's pleased with me, and to know that, I can get clarity from following my purpose. I can get clarity from respecting my body. And so it has helped me trim some fat off. Like, so as far as focusing, and as far as knowing he ain't it. Like, I can talk to a guy on the phone, and the conversation, I'm turned off. Like, I don't like when a guy automatically starts talking sexual and you don't even know me. Like, I can understand you thinking I'm attractive or appreciating my body. Like, I'm a sexual being. We all were created to be sexual beings. But if you're focusing on that, then no. Like, there's more to women than that. I think if women start saying, nah, I'm not for that, I'm not, and I know we're like, I got needs, we all got needs, but that, for me, what has helped me is to really be in relationship with God. It's a daily, like, you know, watching my thoughts, watch what I watch on television, watch what I'm listening to. Like, I can't be in the car listening to Tank Wimley if I'm trying to be celibate. Like, I'm gonna have to listen to some other kind of music because I can't.
Tank is a hard.
Yeah, like I have to like. So I have to. It's not just okay. I'm not gonna have sex. I have to like really create a structure to make that possible.
And that is not easy. Now, how do you feel about that? That I'm gonna say what I feel in a minute. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I'm what people may consider a rare situation, a rare case, because I'm not rare, but because, you know, what was considered normal back in the day is not normal now, you know. So I'm still a virgin, and I'm proud of it.
Go girl.
And not because of religious purposes, but because, you know, because I decided that that's something that I want to do. I don't want to just give my body up to just anybody because it's my body, you know. And I want it to be for the person that God has for me. And yeah, you know, no one's perfect, but that's what I'm waiting for. And I just think that my body and whatever that gift that God has given me is very precious. And why should I just give it away to any Joe and Smo? Because, you know, it's yeah, you know. Yes. So it's mine. So I have to treasure it, I have to guard it, and not just let anyone in, you know? Because you're like, when you let that person in, it's like you're letting them into your spirit, into your soul, you know?
Yes.
And so, yeah, so I'm still a virgin, and that's my choice, you know? And so like, when I first, I was living in Florida, but when I first moved here, I started, you know, delving into the whole relationship thing. And I was encountered by men who wanted to just have sex. I'm like, that's just not me, you know? Like, they think they're gonna have some of this, but they're not gonna have any of this, you know? I mean, if you wanna if we're gonna develop a relationship, that's fine. And into marriage, that's fine. But after marriage, that's when I plan on having sex, you know? I mean, I'm not saying it's not gonna be easy. I mean, look at my age, right? It's not easy, but and I may have temptation. I do have temptations, but I think I've developed that strength on the inside of me to know that this is what I want. I want to stay a virgin until I'm married.
Right.
I have a question.
Take them downstairs.
But to me, I want you to answer that. I want you to tell me what you feel about the sex part.
Well, honestly, I feel like I honestly wish I would have been a lot more mature. Because I lost my virginity at 15 years old. And this is my mother, as we all know, but she didn't have anything to do with my decision to do. Because, you know, a lot of people's excuse or a lot of people's response to that is, oh, I grew up in a fatherless home, or, you know, I was struggling, or I was going from home to home. Whatever your story is what your story is, but that's not my story. My story is that my mother instilled a lot in me, and she worked very hard to take care of me and my sister, along with my father as well. You know, he helped as well. But it wasn't an influence on home that made me make that decision. It was the influence of the world that I allowed to have any kind of effect on the decisions that I made. And so it was more so, it wasn't so much so that I was following the crowd, but I thought that I was leading and I wasn't. You know, I had a lot of people that came to me for a lot of things when it comes to, and they still do to this day, you know, advice and everything. I've always been a little bit more mature than people my actual age, and that's my whole entire life. But the immaturity piece came in when it came to decision making, when it came to what I should be doing, what I know better than to do, but what I did anyway. And so that, I feel like, had a huge effect on where I am now as a woman, although I'm still growing, as I'm sure every one of us are. But I think that has and has had an effect on my decisions when it comes to relationships and sex. Because of the fact that I made the choice to start so early, you know, that was kind of a deal breaker piece for me when I did deal in relationships. Now, granted, I've had long-term relationships, 9 years, 5 years, or whatever have you, but the decision wasn't based on this is the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life. This is my best friend. You know, this person loves me unconditionally and I love them unconditionally. We're going to have a family. We're going to get married. That wasn't the basis, and that's the problem. So I think it's just different things for different people. It really just feels like it's based upon the perspective that you may have when you step out there like that. If that makes sense. So
Makes sense.
Yeah, for me, like I realized about myself what I did. I mean, I've had long-term relationships. I have long-term relationships. I was married before, but what I noticed with me is that I would try to create a connection based on sex, like. To see that I was valued with a man, one of the things that I wanted was for him to feel like sexually he was satisfied with me. And then I just felt like, yeah, when you create that kind of bond with a person, they're going to be attached to you because, like you said, your soul and your spirit is being attached to that person. But it's like when they're desiring you, when they're wanting you, when they miss you, are they missing you? Are they desiring you? Are they desiring the missing sex? You know, and I feel like a lot of things and even in serious relationships, because it started off on that basis and that was the emphasis, there were certain points, even in long-term relationships, where I feel like that person doesn't really know me and I don't really know that person because the foundation wasn't created based on more than a physical attraction. You know, like thinking about things in terms of, well, if I get sick, will this person take care of me? Will this person have my back? Like, if I really need this person, if I need their support, if I need their encouragement, will they be there for me? Or is it just based on what I look like, based on, you know, what I can do for them, based on the physical? And I'm like, I would rather be by myself than not have that insurance that this person is really for me, you know? So it's been worthwhile to me because there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of different emotional things that happen when you are in a relationship with someone. You're giving your whole self, you're giving your body to them, and you don't have that assurance that this person is for me. You know?
Tricity says that this is such a relevant forum. My best friend of 25 years is 43 in a virgin. That's so inspiring, sister. If you don't know your worth, how can you choose to prosper in eternity for us? And you know what? That's a good comment, Tricity. And one of the other things I have to say is soul ties, right? Soul ties is such a real thing that we don't have those conversations a lot about what exactly a soul tie is, right? As women, we, when we're having sex with a man, he is imparting his spirit into us because we are sort of I don't have a better word for it, but it's almost like we are sort of this well where you depart into us, right? And for a long time, because of my soul tie with an individual, and I still struggle with that. I didn't understand what a soul tie was, but what I learned was that this person was so connected to me, and I was so connected to this person that it almost took precedent over a lot of other things. That's how connected we were, because that was a soul tie. This person wasn't my husband, but this person was closer to me almost. And so I think that's one of the things that we don't have a conversation about how as women, when I used to be an HIV educator, and we used to talk about, oh my goodness, we used to talk about, we used to draw this diagram about when you have sex with this person, you've had sex with everybody they've had sex with, and everybody they've had sex with, and everybody they've had sex with, right? And literally, that's true. But that's the same thing as you also have the spirit of everybody they've had sex with, everybody they've had sex with. And I don't think we really have enough conversation about that. The other thing I wanted to say is that in conversations I've had about when you're a virgin or you're saving yourself, one of the things, the issues that come up with is that, well, how do you know that person is good in bed? Like, how do you know, have you ever seen, there's a movie about, it's like Temptation or Obsession, where the young girl married her best friend. She was a virgin. Temptation, I think it's called. Later on, she met this guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was so
Tyler Perry movie.
yeah, he was all freaky and he wanted to have sex on the table and she thought she was missing something.
Yeah.
So she ended up leaving her husband for this man who ended up giving her HIV and beating her almost to death. But she didn't have a comparison. And people, I've had conversations with my friends about, well, how do you know that this is who is for you if you don't have anything to compare it to?
Like, you mean like sexually or just like relationship?
Well, maybe slight. Maybe
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you. I mean,
Yeah, like if you
That's
haven't
part of the
experienced
beauty
it, then
of
you
it,
don't.
yeah.
If you haven't experienced it, then you don't have anything to base it off.
right.
It's like you're not looking for anything particular. You just know that you're gonna have sex when the time comes, and that I don't know what to expect. Like for me, I don't know what to expect. I don't know how it's gonna feel, how it's going to be. I just know when that time comes, it's going to happen. So, and whenever I don't know. I just don't know.
And does
Yeah.
your husband need to be a virgin?
No, he doesn't need to be, but it'd be nice. It'd be kind of cool,
Yeah. I want to get remarried, and I have thoughts about like, well, because I know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, but for me, I'm like, and honestly, this is gonna sound strange, but that is part of my prayer for my future spouse, is that I am satisfied with him, and I don't think that's outlandish to pray to God about, because God made sex, and I really do. My view on sex now is that it is an act of worship. Like, it's to the height of your manifestation of the power of God. Like,
Wow.
I
So
know.
if it-
Wow.
We praise the Lord.
Thank
you, Jesus.
I know. Wow, no, you're worshiping.
Satisfied, Lord.
Worship with
I'm
me.
serious.
No, I like it.
Yeah, that's good. That's
I like it.
I like that.
Because our spirit, we were made by God. He put the breath in us. Like, you think about, and I know this is a lot, but you think about breathing while you're having sex, or you think about like the emotion, and at the height of it, when you completely lose yourself, what is that but God? Like, nobody else can make that. Like,
No,
It's
but
kinda
that's not everybody's experience.
Oh, that's true.
See, here's the thing. You have matured, and that's a good conversation too. You have matured to the point where you know what it is to have a very open and very totally giving, totally inhibited feeling, right? Many women, and myself included until some time, struggle with that kind of intimacy,
Yeah.
because our introduction into sex was not something that was beautiful to that point.
Yeah.
Or maybe we don't know our bodies enough. A lot of women don't know their bodies. There are women who've never had an orgasm before. They don't know how to talk to a man and say, this is how I need you to please me. They feel, some women, that ashamed to say to a man or whoever their partner is, and I don't want to assume things, that this is how you please me. So if you don't have that ability, and you've waited all this time for God to send you this person, you don't know, you could leave that bed and say, wow, is this?
But that's yeah.
And not have that woo.
Yeah, but that goes back to your foundation of your relationship. You should be with someone where you could say, babe, that wasn't it. We're not doing something right.
But what
you
you
should
compare?
not be.
How do you know what to compare that to?
You know what you feel, and I feel like it's something that you should be able to explore freely and openly with your partner. If you're not with someone that you can talk to about what pleases you or satisfies you, why are you opening yourself to that person?
And that's the point. Many of us, and help me, Talia, because I know people, and I have done it myself, had sex because this is part of the relationship. haven't been able to say, I don't like that. Have got up from the bed thinking, now that was some trouble. But didn't say to the person.
God.
Because number one, either we wanted the relationship and we didn't want to do anything to rock the relationship, or we didn't really know ourselves enough to say, that's not, because if let me do, because I know about having sex with men and nothing else, but sometimes men can be offended by you saying, you know, babe, maybe we should have went to the left, you know, having those things.
If you are scared or afraid about what your spouse is going to say or how they are going to respond to you giving your true opinion and feeling about the intimacy that you guys are supposed to be experiencing together, then there's a problem. And that means that you shouldn't even be to that step of laying down and having sex with that person, because you haven't been mature enough to actually sit down and have a conversation about sex without it being about sex, if that makes sense. So a conversation about what pleases me, what doesn't please me, what satisfies me with it. That's an adult conversation that you should be able to have with the person that you're choosing to lay down with and potentially spend the rest of your life with. So if you cannot be open and honest enough to have that conversation without thinking about the consequences or repercussions of just your opinion, then there's another conversation y'all need to be having. Because at that point,
you don't have those conversations because the truth of the matter is a lot of us just have sex first.
Right.
First is the sex.
No emotion.
There's no conversation. Well, the emotion, it depends on how you have the sex is.
Yeah.
There's emotion, but there's no conversation. There's no communication. So you've already had the sex, and then now later on you're like, well, you know, I didn't really like that. It's like, this is what the whole relationship was based on.
Right, but that's what I mean by the conversation.
The communication doesn't have.
Exactly.
But, and some of us, some women, some of us don't know what pleases us. So we can't tell other people how to please us because we don't know. That's all about getting those relationships without knowing yourself first. And one of the things that I really, so Kia, my other daughter, has journaled to her husband. So she's been keeping a journal that she is going to present to who God sends for her. I think, to me, that's like awesome. I wish I would have done it. I didn't do any of this, young ladies. But take it, learn from my mistakes. It would have. I think my life would have been different if I would have structured, what love looked like to me. And love looked to me like I need to be valued. I need to be needed. I need to be wanted. That's what it looked like. It looked like, oh, you make me feel some kind of way. And, in terms of even being uninhibited as a plus size woman, not always, but there's times when I feel some kind of way about my body. So being in a relationship with someone who is attracted to that is like, oh my God, you're attracted to this. So there's so many things that comes with being in relationship, the communication piece, being able to talk to somebody, knowing that that person is going to be there to take care of you at the end of the day, to wipe your drool, right? Those are not conversations that I had all the time. And I've been hard on my daughters about their relationships, mostly because of the mistakes that I have made. This one is just like me in a lot of ways. This one is too, but this one is more like, I don't even have a word for it, almost defined in some words. Like, I'm going to do what you said not to do, just to see what happens and whatever. But, so it's difficult to watch your children making choices that where they could lead to in a relationship. So, tell me, are your parents still alive? Or, so, have you had conversations with your mom or
about like sex or
about
relationships?
what your expectations are in a relationship?
No, not really.
So did you see, tell me so this is a good question for you three ladies. What did you see? Because most of the time we model our relationships based on what we saw, regardless of what we heard, what we saw. What did you see? What was your idea?
What was my idea when I saw my parents? Okay, what do you mean by idea?
So
Like,
Most of the time-
what marriage should be,
Of a marriage or a relationship.
or their relationship.
It could be their relationship. You could have seen something and said, I want my relationship just like that, or I don't want anything like that, or that's what I should be looking for, somebody like that, or I shouldn't look for anyone, nothing like that. But something in what is modeled to us is part of what helps us form all of our relationships.
Well, I'll go first. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
We got a couple minutes. We got, what time is it? 7:27. So it looks like we got like 10 minutes. Wait, 1 second. Here you go. Sorry, you guys.
Thank you.
Close this door. Yeah! But my opinion on that, I feel like, is what I seen was a lot of transition. This is just me being honest. And this is my mother sitting right here. So we're talking about our experience. But it was a lot of transition that I've seen. Although my mother always maintained a roof over our head for as long as I can remember, you know, she's always made sure that she was working, we were taken care of, never been evicted from anywhere, like anything. But it still was very transitional on a regular basis. Very transitional on a regular basis. So we moved a lot. I went to 4 different high schools, you know, so it wasn't 100% consistent. It was consistent as far as the household. It was consistent as far as a roof over our head, and my mother always worked, and we were always good. Like, we may not have wanted everything had everything we wanted, but we always had what we needed. But it was a lot of transition. So I feel like that's a part of why I go through a lot of transition. She knows it, my sister knows it, of course she don't know me, but I go through a lot of transition, whether it be transition from one house to the other, or whether it be transition from one relationship to another. There's a lot of transition. And so the after effect for me is, okay, so look at what you're showing your kids. I have 4 kids, everybody who knows me knows that. So this constant transition that I'm repeating is what they're seeing, which means that they're going to repeat that same cycle if I do not make some type of change to change the dynamic of the original cycle that I'm used to seeing and then reenacting. So consciously, we have to kind of sit down and look in the mirror and make a decision as to, okay, so I know better. You know what I mean? Like, I can't use the excuse of what I've seen to be the reason why I make the choices that I make, only because I'm intelligent enough to be able to depict from whatever my experience was what was right and what was wrong. So I know right from wrong, just like you tell your kids. I tell my kid, you know right from wrong. But whatever choice you made is on you. You have to deal with it. You made it. No one made you do it. You know, so I feel like all of that to me has a big impact on when it comes to us choosing that person, when it comes to, you know, what we want and what we'll accept and what we won't, and what conversations that we should be having and the conversations that we're not having. And I think speaking to myself and other people at the same time, it's more so like you got to kind of stop and think and kind of, you're not going to be able to plan everything out because that's just not reality, because things happen in life, you know, but you have to be able to deal with whatever those things are that are happening in life and still move forward with whatever goals and aspirations, relationships, friendships, marriages, you know, that you choose throughout your lifetime without making those excuses. That's good, y'all.
Any thoughts, ladies? Any input on it?
I agree with her.
Well, I think, so, and I get that. I saw a lot of transition when I was growing up. And my sisters and I, we have these conversations all the time about the impact of transition, almost like having a parent that's in the military. And so, and it impacts, because it impacted us so much so that there became depression when we were not transit. Like, we needed, I mean, we were so used to moving that when we didn't move, we felt like something was wrong. You know, but I think that part of growth and learning is identifying where patterns are coming from. So you know, and again, you know, you are giving stuff to your kids. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say to them all day long. Your kids look at what you do. And for a long time, I felt a lot of guilt about the things that I showed my children, if they weren't positive. But again, I come to the point, and I feel like you come to the point where, especially when you have grown children, okay, I don't raise you, you're grown, you need to make some decisions based on, that's all of us, based on what you know from life thus far. Because we can't, although we do it a lot, and this is another conversation for another day, about accepting responsibility for today. But we were talking about where the love is, and the love is in all of that. And so before we go, I'd like to get some last minute thoughts from you ladies about relationships. Where do you go from here? Where do you find your Boaz? I always hear people talk about finding a Boaz. I would say don't look for Boaz.
Shouldn't he be
Look
looking
for
for
Bo.
us?
Yeah, he should be looking for y'all.
Look for Bo?
But here's another thing. He should be looking for you. God should send, because the word says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So he should absolutely
And gets
look
favor from the
And
Lord.
gets favor from
You
the
will
Lord.
be favored from God.
But Kia also always says, "Where am I gonna find somebody? I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. Is he gonna knock on my door?"
And he's not.
Yeah, he might. I heard
No,
a
y'all
story where
gotta
this woman
keep-
said, God, I want my future husband to knock on my door. And then maybe like a few months later, he knocks on her door because he's visiting a friend of hers. And then they end up getting to know each other, and then they became married.
Oh.
Yeah. I heard other stories like that too.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
right? Yeah.
He could be the UPS man, Kia.
I'm not a UPS guy.
I don't order stuff.
You know.
There go the checklist. Okay, but so that's one more quick question I want to talk about before we end. Right? Oh, wait a minute. I gotta look. My niece Trissy said my parents were together for 47 years, and the love that they shared sparked a desire to make that sacrifice. However, a lot can happen in a relationship. They instilled the work and loyalty in us as well as leadership, but I still had to establish who I am and what I need. I had to be an individual, and I had to learn me. And that's so true and important. Like my brother and Lydia, like my sister-in-law, man, they had this rock solid, they was just together. But what I know is that they rolled. Like, that's why you gotta be careful about what you say. I'm not gonna put up with this and I'm not gonna put up with that. They was soldiers for each other. Like, they rolled with each other. We rolling, good, bad, or indifferent. So that's why you gotta establish before you start your relationship, what is a deal breaker and what's not? What am I gonna roll with and what am I not? And if you're not gonna roll with it, do you expect somebody gonna roll for you?
It's hard. That's hard to establish. That definitely has to be established based on a friendship first. But beyond that or before that is getting to know yourself. So when you talk about what did I see growing up, I saw, my parents were, I thought they had a great relationship in some aspects because they were good teammates. They made things happen together. And they had their faults and flaws, and they went through their different issues. But they were teammates. But going back to knowing who you are, that's what I had to figure out that I needed to do for myself. It's like face those things, face those patterns, face those challenges, face the transition, sit still in myself, and kind of go from there. And a lot of times and I've said this before, you can kind of create distractions that don't allow you to kind of face what's going on with you. But I had to kind of eliminate that, and it's not a one and done arrived situation. It's like constantly evolving process that you go through. But I think it's so worthwhile to go through that process now, so that when I do get in a relationship with someone, that I will be a better person for them, and that I can give to them and be stable within myself, so that our foundation could even be more stable. So yeah, but as far as finding someone, I I do believe that a man finds a wife. I believe that I should not be searching for a husband. I believe that I should not be looking, and I should just trust God. But it is hard because I know what I do and where I go. I go to work. I go to Target, Walmart. I go to, I'm with my kids. I love spending time with my kids. I love doing things with them. Recently, I have tried to follow my purpose and do things that I'm passionate about, and I think that opens up the door to meet more people. And I think that you glow as a woman, as a person, when you're doing something that you're purposeful about and you're passionate about. I think you become your best self when you're actually doing something that lends to something that makes you excited. So I feel like that can be an avenue to open the door to meet other people, but I do think it's hard to meet people, honestly. I don't know where to love that. I don't know what to
It's like we have to like put ourselves. You know how they say you put yourself out in circulation, right? It's like, well, where do you go? Like you leave work, you get stuck in what, an hour of traffic, and then you get home, you don't feel like going anywhere. I mean, I came from Florida where traffic is not like it is here, and so. But anyways, but I don't know. It's like, so I don't want to just focus my attention. Oh yeah, I gotta go out just so I can meet a guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want it to be organic, to flow. But yes, but I still do. I do need to go out and put myself out there, but not for that purpose. But just to live life,
Yeah, and just to meet. Like, sometimes I'll meet a person and I can tell, like, right away that that's not the person for me. But then I feel like God is saying, well, what if that person needs to just hear a word about God, or they need a friend? Like, it doesn't always have to be we're going to get together. Like, they might need something from you spiritually, and if you don't set up that expectation of them and you just let it flow, like you said, organically, then you're able to give to that person what they may need from you. And it might not be a relationship, it might be a friend, it might be a word of encouragement, it might be an influence on who God is to you and how they have impacted you. You never know what people are going through. You never know what's going on in their mind. So it's like, be available and open, guard your heart, but be available and open to relationship with people. That doesn't necessarily have to be an ulterior motive of you being with it. Yeah, finding someone. Yeah.
I think that's why it's good to network in general. You know what I mean? Like, network at different events in general, not for the purpose of meeting someone, but just, it might be a business relationship that you may build there. It may be a friendship that you build there that you don't know is going to happen. Like you were saying, whatever have you, but there should not be an ulterior motive to why you're out there, or an ulterior motive to why you're networking. It should just be, okay, well, let me just go, mingle, be around, put yourself around different people too. Don't be so stagnant in one type of person as well, because that also has an effect on your future endeavors. Because honestly, like soul ties, connections are the same. So the connections that you make have an impact on what might happen in your life in the future, or in current times. So you really have to just be mindful of that when you make decisions, and when you are networking and seeing different things in people, because you don't know what God has for you. No matter where you could step out your door and be judged, but you don't know that. You know what I mean?
He has plans to prosper you.
So, ladies, our time is coming to an end. Those of you who are watching out there, number one, on January 19th, there is a women's empowerment event that myself and my friend Shauna is doing, Vision Board. January 19th, you must register on Eventbrite. I have not seen one person register. But let me just say this, because y'all know I keep it real. My last event was free, and folks was registered left and right. This is only $15. We're going to get free food. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do giveaways. Y'all need to get on Eventbrite and register for January 19th Vision Board event. Next, if you don't have it, get my book, The Book Club. I'm going to be saying that until the cows come home, y'all, because I am not going to drop book 2 until God told me go back to the beginning, and this is the beginning. Every week, I'm going to have a Sistah-Talk at home where we take a page from the book club and explore some views with women. Thank you, ladies, for being with me today, for being transparent, for sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having
The love is here. That's where the love is.
Yeah.
And thank you all for joining us. Have a great day.